Nikki D here, coming at you live yet again. Today's going to be an interesting video. So this is actually a review of 28 Years Later, and I'm also going to make this on YouTube and at the same time for the podcast. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, it will just be the audio, as I don't know how video plays out there, because I like to put a little trailer footage in. And if you're watching it on YouTube, it will be me on camera with a little bit of trailer footage, but the exact same audio will be taking place. So, pick your poison. So that being said, I know on the podcast, I've specifically done online dating. I don't know if you can do if it all has to be one thing, or if I can implement this in with it. So I don't know, like a playlist. I don't know what I'll do, but I do like reviewing movies. So I'll figure it out and we'll get it on there. But that being said, let's kind of just dive into what we're talking about. So 28 Years Later just dropped out. I watched it on Thursday. So I've given it a day and a half to simmer, and now we're going to talk about it. So the first probably about 2 minutes, 3 minutes will be just no spoilers, and then I will warn you when we move into spoiler category on YouTube. There will be text on the screen now to indicate when that is. Overall thoughts. So again, no spoiler section right now. So I enjoyed the movie on first watch. When I thought about it overnight and the next day, my review unfortunately dropped. I am now kind of at a 3 out of 5. I think I was like a 4, maybe a 4.5. But I think after thinking things out, I basically I went from a 4 to a 3. I would have went 4 probably. So that's still a big drop. But I still overall thought it was a pretty good, enjoyable film. I can definitely, we're going to break it down in the spoilers. That's probably going to be a very long section. I can definitely see why people wouldn't have liked the movie. And I don't disagree with a lot of points being brought up. But, that's what we're here for. We're going to be talking about those, of course, in the spoiler section. Again, non-spoilers, I think the first act was really, really good. I think the second act isn't bad, and the third act falls off pretty hard, in my opinion. So again, the first act, if you have watched 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, you will enjoy the first act probably the most, if you are a fan of those two movies. I think for someone coming into the series who's never seen any, might actually rate this movie overall higher, because it is less about the infected and more about characters. And a big thing to note that I didn't know going into the movie, which does help my review a little bit, because I actually would have rated it a lot worse, to be honest. It was standalone. They are making 2 others, and one is already filmed and releasing in January. So not that far away, to be honest, that we're going to have another one. It'll be a continuation of the movie here. So that's a very interesting fact to think about. I think the cinematography was pretty solid. It's noted that this movie shot on an iPhone, and I think they keep a lot of camera work pretty close to the original. Very sporadic, crazy camera work, and then some of it is just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. Where they're walking in the Scotland hills, in the Highlands. It just looks, breathtaking. I'm actually going to the Scotland Highlands, so I'm very excited now. That's, I get to see the beauty in person. But it very, very incredible. And I think the characters were done well as well. Maybe not every character, but I think that was pretty good. And again, the strongest, I can't repeat this enough, the strongest part of the movie is the first act. About the first 45 minutes are splendid. I'm all over it. So I think with that being said, we've kind of talked enough. Let's get into the spoiler section today. So again, this is your last chance. We're moving into spoilers. I'm going to talk about basically the entire plot. I've emailed myself. I did this the other day. Sent an email. I've got all the notes written out in categories of what we're going to talk about, mostly in the correct order. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Apparently my oven's on because my microwave's beeping. I'm not microwaving anything. It's a ghost. All right, so hopefully we'll try to get through this as quick as possible, but I got a lot to talk about. Again, last chance. Here's your spoilers. So, intro, we start out with a couple kids. There's a bunch of kids watching the Teletubbies. This is like the initial, here it is. Obviously, infected get in. One kid hides behind a door. All the zombies come in. Well, I'll call them zombies, but infected. They come in. They just brutally take the kids out. That's not really seen, but you see the blood going everywhere, so you know what happens, obviously. The kid gets out of there. He runs out. He runs quickly over to a church where his father lets him hide, and the father embraces becoming infected. Embraces it. He's very happy, by what you can tell, to embrace what's coming, and he becomes infected. some people are saying, like, in the reviews, that that was really rushed, and I would agree to that. But I think it also sets the tone really, really well. Especially if you're not familiar with this series, because it has been a while, and some people probably have not seen the first two. I went with someone who hadn't. That really sets the tone. You know exactly what's going on. The camera's all over the place. It's just, it looks crazy. You know, they nailed it. I think they nailed it. It was rushed, but I think in terms of getting the overall premise right away, you're like, I know what's happening. I will say, I wish we got more of that. Give me a little bit more of that initial, oh my god, right? But, you know, that's it. Maybe we'll get more in the next one, but I don't like saying that. I like seeing what's in the movie presently. Maybe drop the ball a bit there. But overall, I enjoyed that part, okay? Good start. So they start off, and the community that we're following is on an island. Now, the island is defended by one pathway that comes into the island, and it's defensible because of the tide. So when the tide comes in, it completely covers it up. As far as I'm aware, and I think the movie's aware, the infected cannot swim, and so they're good. And when the tide goes out, the pathway shows up a bit that they can walk across it, not for very long, but they can. And it's one way in, one way out. And when they walk, that one way is defensible, right? They've got a gate, they've got like turrets, not with machine gun, but like bow arrows and stuff. So they obviously can defend themselves. I thought that was really, really smart. I think that's logical. That would be a smart thing to do. The community looks like it's a good size. And I think, like, one thing I really liked here was an attention to detail in little things. You know, they have signs where they're, like, scarce on resources. They're on an island, so they can fish, which is shown, right? They do go inland a bit, which we'll talk about a little bit. We'll talk about a lot coming up soon. But they go inland a little bit to, like, cut down trees, like, they make bows and arrows. Very, very smart play. There's even an arrow, there's a very quick scene where they're making an arrow, and they're just using, like, anything, like pieces of metal for, like, the tip, which I thought was really smart. You're using anything you have at your disposal to make a weapon. And, of course, ammo is just going to be, that's a finite resource. So bows and arrows, is something you can actually depend on and use. That's very smart. So I liked it. I liked the beginning, and I liked where they were at. Very, very, very good. You get introduced to your characters. So we get Jamie. Now, I'll mostly just call him the dad, because that's kind of the relationship we're working with. Spike is the son, basically is the main character. And I think I'm going to mispronounce it, but Isa? I would call her the mom. So the mom is shown to be very sick in the beginning. You're not really sure what's up, but she's bedridden. She's not doing well at all. So she's doing really rough. And the father and son are going out for their first adventure, which is the next thing. It's also noted that the rest of the world apparently is just okay. And they sail boats around where they're at, which I believe, if I remember correctly, was the UK. So they sail boats all around to make sure nobody gets in or out. So you'll see patrols frequently, like a couple times throughout the movie, you'll see like lights in the distance, and it's a boat patrolling. And if anybody comes near them, they obviously just kill them instantly. So I thought that was really interesting. I think I would have preferred a little bit more like traditional, like, okay, like the world's falling apart kind of thing, because it just seems weird, because we find later in the movie that the world's kind of just continued, except for them. So I just think that was a little lame, but missed opportunity. So the first trek out is the father and son going out. They're gonna go out, try to get some resources, see what they can see. I think, and I'm gonna harp on this. This is probably the best part of the whole movie. Is this entire part of the movie. So father son go out. They meet. I think they had a specific name for them, but I just called them bloaters. So they're infected that are like big and gray. They're like really big, and they're crawling. They'll eat worms. They'll eat anything they can. They're just crawling. So I thought that was interesting. They introduced kind of a new infected. I don't think that has really been shown. So they go to kill him. He's like, the dad's like, hey, it's your first kill, right? So I thought it was an okay scene. But there is a point where a couple more pop up, and the father, you can tell, is very experienced. He knows what he's doing. He takes care of them with no issue. But he's egging on Spike to go for it, right? Like he's 12 years old. He's like, I'm egging you on. I'm getting you going. Whatever. And obviously I'm going to skip little details, right? But don't worry about that. They find a dead person that's tied upside down. Now, again, this is not in a particular order. I think this was the order. I'm just writing down what I remember out of the movie theater. So they find a person upside down with like a name scrawled into the skin, and the person's been killed. This is also, in my opinion, another really missed opportunity. I wanted more of that. I wanted more of the human interaction, and maybe that is cliche, but I wanted more of human interaction. What are raiders going to do? What are sickos going to do, right, to other people? Would their community be attacked? You know, show me that. So that was unfortunate, but I liked the scene. I liked overall because it's Spike hesitating. You know, he's scared. He's only 12, right? And it's shown throughout their time on the island that he's been trained. They have a lot of scenes of like, apparently people in like reviews didn't like this. They have a lot of scenes where they'll show like medieval stuff, like they'll be like, you know, bow and arrows shooting. And I think that's just supposed to symbolize that they've gone back to like the primitive ages. Like that's what they have to do, right? They have to do that. And it's the smartest way to survive, right? And it's absolutely logical. I didn't mind those clips, by the way. They weren't like everywhere, but they were frequent enough that I thought they were okay. But we got the point after a while. They move on to a field of CGI deer. I'm going to be honest, I think the deer looked a little rough, but that's a nitpick, okay? But there's deer, and they're out there, okay? I'm trying to think what was relevant, so maybe that wasn't relevant. Who knows? But this is where it picks up. So they get to a big field, and there's infected up on the field, like just up there, right? And you're like, okay, like you can see them, right? And I thought it was really daunting because there's a bunch of them that look a little smaller on the left coming up. And again, hopefully throughout this, I put trailer footage up so you know what I'm talking about. And there's one that looks bigger, and he's on the right, but he's not moving. He's standing still. And it's really jarring because you're like, right? We're in an open field. Now, if you've seen the first two, 28 Weeks Later does have the opening when they're in the field, and that can be pretty intense. But the first one is in a city, so it's really claustrophobic. And they do really good, I think, with the camera angles to show that. And especially where they're running through like a forest. They're running through a woods. It's not so straightforward. So that scene anyway, they're like, we'll stand still. And then when the dad figures out that that's what's called an alpha, he's like, we gotta go. So the alpha is shown a few times. I'm going to nitpick on this on the alpha later, but I'll talk about it now. I didn't mind the first approach of the alpha. So the alpha is apparently an intelligent, to a certain extent, it's like Attack on Titan, right? It's like a Titan shifter. It is an intelligent infected. How intelligent? I'm not 100%. And they are bigger and much stronger. They are very hard to take down. So it doesn't necessarily work in the way like other like zombie movies where you gotta like shoot them in the head. The dad often yells out like heart and head. So there, you know, you can still like incapacitate them. You could still, which is shown later. And again, it does not have to be a headshot to kill them. But apparently these alphas are very hard to kill. They can take like supposedly like half a dozen arrows and they're still coming straight at you. So very, very imposing, right? You get the idea right away. The dad does not want to mess with it, and he wants out of there. So they run out. They turn around. They hightail it out. When they're running out, the alpha screams and the rest of them start moving. So it seems like obviously it can kind of command them to some extent. So they come in. This was perfect. I liked this. There are so many little moments like Spike shoots an arrow and misses twice. Like what gets one in the leg, one at a tree. So he's nervous. He's shaking. You know, all his training isn't going to pay off because he's in the real world doing it now. And the dad is commanding. You know, he's like, we're running, and he goes, stop, defense. And they turn around, draw, and they shoot an arrow, and they run. They don't just stand there. They move back to a house. And again, I'll come back to the defense in a second. But they move to the house, and they're going to try to get up into the attic, which they actually successfully do. They take out a few coming in, and they get up in the attic and hide. Because obviously, like, the infected are just not smart enough, I guess, to get up, which is fine. So they're like, okay, we're good. We've got out of there. When they're killing the infected, they do basically what like a Call of Duty kill cam. They do like a slow motion shot where like the arrow hits them. I didn't mind it, but I definitely could see where it was annoying, and I think it was overused. I didn't think we needed it that much. Like, show it for the first fight or something. Okay, sure, right? Like, really hone in. But we don't need it that much. I think it was overplayed. One thing I love, though, was attention to detail, is they didn't pick up arrows, and it was bugging me in the movie, actually. I couldn't think why they wouldn't do that, because you'd think, like, every arrow would be useful, especially in these situations. If you have one moment where you could get the arrow, you should get the arrow. Even one, right? It could be a life or death. But I would assume that it's covered in their infected blood, and again, from the earlier ones, if you get any blood into you, right? Like on you, like on your arm, I think it's fine. But if you like ingest it some way, like remember in 28 Weeks Later, like a drop goes into someone's eye from a crow, that's enough to turn you, and you turn within like 10, 15 seconds. So I think that's probably why they're not picking them up. They're leaving them. Obviously, and it's the heat of the battle, you got to get out of there. But what I liked was the attention to detail as they're out of arrows. Then it's not infinite. It's not like, I was going to say like John Wick, but it's like a Jason Statham movie or Rambo where they're just not going to run out. They do run out, and they run out very, very quickly. So that was pretty nice. So it just shows the devastation that like 10 of them can do, 10 infected, right? Or whatever, a small number. Now, in the other ones, you see a lot bigger numbers, and my reason for that is that they're just not close to a city. I know that's an argument as well. I'm going to try. I think that's my defense. That's what I'm going to go with. But my headcanon is they're out on the ocean. Like the infected would probably go where the bigger areas are, because that's probably where they got infected. So you see smaller numbers throughout the movie. You never see large numbers of infected. I don't know if I really hate that or not. I'm kind of okay with it. But I would have liked to see more. But I will say again, a small number of them is very devastating. A small number is not like something to be messed with. So they hide up in the house, and they note that the Alpha is waiting on the hilltop, like in the distance. They can see its silhouette. Very scary. It is waiting. It is smart, and it is waiting for them to come down. It knows they have to come down, and it's going to wait there and kill them. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not going to talk too much about the dreams, but the son has dream spike. He gets, obviously, it's like kind of some nightmare or whatever. I'm not sure what the leaning is, but I thought they were interesting. I just didn't really care for them that much, but I thought they were fine. That being said, though, it looks like a bunch of deer run by, and the chimney blows out. I don't really hate that or love it either, but it's like, whatever, I get it. It looks like it's kind of like into dawn. I'm not really sure the exact timing, but they have to get out of the house because of that. They get out of there, and they're like, well, our only chance really is to hightail it back to home and try to cross our bridge. Even though the tide isn't completely in our favor, we can still, it'll be like, I forget they said it was like it was not waist deep, but it was like knee deep, and they're like, we can make it. We just got to follow that path, and we're going to make it. So they go to get out of there. The Alpha runs after them. So I don't remember if the other two infected were there. I don't think they were. But the Alpha is running after them, and it is a very heart, like, your heart is jumping, because it's like this thing is like Terminator running straight at them through this pathway to get them, and they hardly make it through the gate in time, where the defense does save them. They have a big like javelin basically, and it pierces the Alpha, kills them, and they get in. We're going to move into kind of, I don't know if this is specifically Act 2, but this is where, in my opinion, the movie now starts to falter, but we'll talk about it in a minute. But again, I want to make it known that they barely make it in, and there was also a note earlier in the movie when they go to initially leave that they send no rescue party, no matter what. So I think if you go out on your own, you're on your own. There's no one, they're not promising anybody's coming after you. It's not like The Last of Us, where someone's coming to Seattle, right? It's not going to happen. So again, moving into this, I have less notes here, because I was kind of less impressed after a while. So the father and the son have basically a falling out after a party. They have a party. The father is really talking up the adventure, and the son is admitting later on in private that they didn't really do a whole lot. They didn't make it very far. They were scared. He was scared, and the father's really hyping it up. I think this is kind of just because, like, they know how hopeless that situation is. I think the community knows that. So they're trying to hype up the situation to be like, look how it did anywhere. And it's true. They didn't make it very far. There's also a scene I'm going to talk about that I didn't bring up in their adventure when they're in the house. They see a fire in the distance. I'm going to bring that up in a minute. I don't know if you're thinking about it, if you've seen the movie. The father is like hitting on a woman. They obviously has like a rouse with her. Keeping a note, by the way, that, he has a wife who's like bedridden, but we'll find out what's going on there in a bit. And the son finds out more about that fire and who it is who's running it, which is actually one person. Apparently it's a doctor. So obviously now the kid is like, well, I would like to go there. I could get my mother there because my dad had told me not to worry about it when they were in the building. So don't worry about it. That's a crazy guy out there. So it sounds like the dad might be lying to him. Okay. So Spike jumps to the morning. He's actually lit on their one of their shacks on fire to distract the guards, and he leaves with the mother. I'm a little surprised no one saw him. I'm surprised no one really went after him, because it's a kid and the mom who like probably can't really defend themselves. Like even the husband, like the dad doesn't go out. A little surprised, but they get out there anyway. And I thought it was a really dumb decision, but maybe it's because it's a 12-year-old. You know, you could get that, you could defend that, I suppose. Spike's a little better at aiming. I know there's like an argument to be made that like he was missing and now he's not. I think the nerves have worn off. He's gone out once, he's doing it again, and he's now protecting his mother. His mother is in no condition to draw the arrows and start shooting and whatever. So I that's my headcanon. But I do admit that it is a little odd that he was only out there like the morning before, and like he was missing everything. Now he's a pro. But there wasn't also like droves of them either, but there is a couple. So they run into a gas station, literally filled up with gas. It's been like overdue. There's a note in reviews I read that there was like no repercussions of them going in there. Well, right after they're like barfing. They're like barfing a lot. So I think they did get quite sick out of that, but it would have been nice to see more. Now I'm going to hop back in the timeline for a second. I just wanted to get to that point. So there's a scene where a bunch of military guys are shown, and they're getting destroyed by the infected. And 3 of them go down this dark hallway, and there's an alpha. So now there's another alpha. Now, I have a problem with this. So I thought the alpha would be like really rare because they introduced it, right? And was like, okay. But I thought it would be like a really rare thing, you know, like one of them or something. Like every like couple thousand, there's one or something. But it's like there's 2 right there. And I was like, okay, that's a bit much. So there's an alpha. It rips someone's head straight off, like the fucking corpse, you know, all the details are there. Let's say that. All the details are there with the head coming off. It's very gruesome. And it's like, okay, that's a lot. And they also do that like 2 more times, and I think it's just completely overused. We get it. It's gruesome, right? That's the point. We understand it. Either way, though, that one survivor is the only one that makes it out about 8 people, and he actually saves them in the gas station by igniting the gas by shooting and saving our main characters. Don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how I feel about it, but maybe we'll talk about it if we get time. So, moves on. They introduce themselves. This is where the tone shifts completely in the movie, in my opinion, to more of a comedy. And I don't think it was for the better. Now, I think the jokes were funny. Because it's him as a young fella, but Swedish, talking to Spike. His boat crashed, I guess, and they came ashore. And he's talking to Spike, and Spike doesn't understand like anything he's talking about, like the internet, Amazon. Shows a picture of his girlfriend. He makes jokes about like, not even jokes. He just doesn't know, right? But he's like talking about like a shellfish allergy or something, and they swell up, you know. So it's funny. Like it was funny. My theater was enjoying themselves, but I think it just didn't really need to be there. It just didn't add to the movie to me. So I just thought that was a wasted opportunity there. We could have had more development of something than that. Yeah, so that kind of helped. That kind of happened. So there's something big coming up, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. But there's something really, really big. So yeah, and I just put a note in here. Movie goes downhill. So I don't know like the specific timeline, but I'm gonna call this Act 3, and this is my least favorite act of the movie. So they're kind of adventuring. They're doing the jokes, whatever, and the mom stumbles up to a train. Where there's a pregnant infected. Now, this has been very debated online. I went online, read some reviews. People are not happy with this. I totally get why, but let's break it down first. So there's an infected woman. She was shown earlier, but she's pregnant, and the mom comes up. The infected is giving birth. It's like, okay. Well, comments here in a minute. The mother puts her hands up, and again, can't see me in the podcast, but the mother puts her hands up, and they like lock hands to kind of help her, like to be there, right? And she gives birth, okay, the infected woman. It's noted that the baby's not infected. Now, I think the argument is the eyes. The eyes are always red on infected. They looked at the eyes, they're like, well, it's not infected. So I think that's the argument, and that's what I would go with. I think that's a sound argument. The rest of the scene, though, now that's a problem. So then the infected woman goes hostile, and the Swedish guy shoots the woman, and they're like pissed. That's infected. So my guess is it wasn't an infected that pregnated the infected woman. She was pregnant, got infected, and then gave birth. But I'm interested how the baby did not get infected. with like even a drop of blood from infected, and you get infected. So I don't really know. It's not really explained much. They were like, oh, I guess it can't pass through this layer. And I was like, all right. Yeah, I don't know. And I'm surprised that the infected would not immediately turn hostile to the mom, which is what has happened every single time in in any movie. So very surprised. Not really going to say I like that scene. After that, the Alpha shows up and looks actually a little concerned for the dead infected. So I think that's the lore that people are going with, that it's like maybe that's the father who infected, who, you know, whatever. But I don't think infected can, like, have sex and give birth. I don't think so. I think that woman was already infected. Would they have killed the baby? I don't know, right? That's an argument for another day. Anyway, but that being said, the Alpha does kill the Swedish soldier by ripping his head off. So I think we've seen it, right? We know what that is. We got it already. They get out of there by the doctor who tranquilizes the infected. I never thought of that, and that's a smart idea. That he's like, yeah, and I've sedated you. This happens like 2 times where he sedates the Alpha and doesn't kill it. I think, and I actually think it's dumb, but I think the reason is the doctor is like trying to value life. I think like Morgan in The Walking Dead, he's like, all life is precious, because he's got this bone collection, which we see later, of skulls and bones that he puts as like a memorial. So I think that's why he's supposed to not be killing the Alpha. I just think it's really dumb. That thing is going to kill you. If it can, it's going to make sure it kills you, and brutally. And you're like, nah, I'll leave it. He also notes that he's like doused himself in like chemicals, so his skin's all like red. Apparently the infected don't like that. I thought that was cool, and it's interesting. Okay. So like I said, he's been hiding out there for about 20 years, and the Alpha almost kills him later, and again he tranquilizes it. They hide in a little cage, but they tranquilize it again. Don't kill it. I was like, all right. So this is a controversial spot. The next really couple things I'm going to talk about are all controversial in the movie. So the mother is diagnosed by the doctor. He has no equipment, but what he can do there, that she's got cancer, and it's basically in her body, also in her head now as well. She's been showing nosebleeds, constant memory, like forgetfulness, pain, and it's like, okay. And she kind of like gives him a nod, so he sedates the kid, so Spike. And she like takes a walk with him, and he like uses a blow dart and basically, I think, like sedates her and peacefully ends her life. That is the idea. And Spike seems to be kind of okay with it after, not really knowing what cancer was. And like, it's supposed to be like symbolic. Like he takes her skull, which is what the guy does. He's like, put the skull up in the pile, and puts it on the pile. And that's the mother's death. I don't really, I'm gonna be honest, I actually didn't hate it. Okay, I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna go on a limb here and say I didn't hate it. I didn't hate that part of the movie, but I absolutely understand why people would. I think it was kind of nice, and I think like it was the peaceful way to go out, because it's obviously just gonna get worse. She's gonna be in pain. She's gonna wither away, and I think she just kind of embraced it. Was like, you know what? Yeah, okay. Because she couldn't even remember things. Like he told her like a word, and he's like, "Did you remember the word?" And she can't. And that was like 10 minutes ago, right? So I think she knows, like, and the doctor said too, it's like, it's going to be soon. And so I think she kind of like embraced it rather than, dragging it out. I'm just kind of surprised with Spike's reaction that he just kind of went with it too. You think he'd be a little bit more upset. But yeah, I definitely think that's going to flip-flop. I think some people are going to like it. I think a lot of people are going to hate that scene. But anyway, trying to get through it so we're not here all day. We move on. So the kid takes the kid, or the baby, sorry, and leaves it at the gate. Nobody saw him, by the way. Leaves it at the gate at home, and he leaves, and he goes out on his own. The father sees the note, tries to run out, but he can't because of the tide, and he's like, So it's obviously baited probably to a second movie that he will come out. The ending is absolutely stupid, okay? So here we go. It's the last part of the movie. So I put horrid ending. So the kid from the beginning is Jimmy. This is the person at the end that the kid meets, that Spike meets. So there's some infected coming. Spike meets him. Again, it's landing a bunch of arrows. No problem. And a bunch of guys in like tracksuits that look really ridiculous. I've been seeing online people are calling them Power Rangers, show up and are like dramatically and epically killing all of the undead and laughing like they're just a bunch of psychopaths, obviously. And at the end, Jimmy like shakes his hand. He's like, "We're gonna be friends," and it ends the movie. That scene completely took me out of the film. I lost all faith in the movie at that point. I kind of liked it up to that point, and then my thoughts really simmered. It soured after that. The ending just didn't seem to fit. I think the idea they're going with is these guys are obviously just like crazy psychopaths and are enjoying themselves killing the undead, and obviously Spike has gotten himself in league now with some people that are very messed up, and we're probably going to get what I wanted in the second movie is character, right, from other people. Like, what are other people going to do? Remember, this has been 28 years. Spike grew up. He's only 12, so he grew up this entire time with the infected being a lot like out there, and that is interesting. A note as well, by the way, that I see oftentimes is how did the infected not starve to death? So it's shown throughout the movie that they're eating like deer, worms, whatever. But I think it's noted in 28 days and 28 weeks later that people still get infected, right? So like say like a bunch of infected die off, but a woman gets infected tomorrow. Well, that's a new infected, and she can go infect other people that are still alive. So I think that that's just what happens. It just keeps reoccurring that it's not fully ending, and people are still getting infected. And we do see that they're eating. But 28 years is a long time, because in 28 days and 28 weeks later, pretty much everybody dies for infected. So I think that could be argued as a plot hole for sure. So I know this review's gone on for like half an hour, and that's a pretty long one. So I think we'll try to wrap up there. Overall, I mean, 3 out of 5. I think it was pretty good for what I liked. Again, the first act, as you can see how much I talked about it, I think was the absolute best part of the movie, hands down, no arguments there. So again, I'm just a little surprised, but yeah, I'm not surprised that the Google reviews are a little low, and people are really decisive over it. It really seems to be like, I loved it or I hated it. There's really not too much in the middle. But yeah, I'll let you guys decide for yourself. So, all right, thanks so much for watching, everybody. We will see you in the next video or in the next podcast. We'll hear you. All right, take it easy. Thanks for watching so much, and we will see you in the next one.